and welcome to Crafts with Ash DIY and Decor. My name's Ashley, and today I'm bringing you another round of Kirklands / Pottery Barn Christmas dupes. I know everyone absolutely loved dupes, so I wanted to bring some more ideas that you could do for the Christmas season. First, if you haven't done so already, please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit that little notification bell so you're notified anytime I upload a new video. Also, click the drop down menu and hit all so you're notified about all notifications. I upload a ton of fun DIY videos that I know that you'll love, so you definitely don't want to miss it. All right, let's get started with these Kirkland / Pottery Barn dupes. This first dupe comes from Pottery Barn, and it is so easy, but I'm going to give you another option to make it even easier. So as you saw, I had those 3 clay pots left over from summer, or you can pick up 3 of those red bells from the Dollar Tree. Whatever you would like to do, you just need some red ones. So because I had the pots, I went ahead and painted all 3 of these with the crimson red chalk paint from Waverly. Then once my pots dried, I just took my white paint marker and I just made some snowflakes, some zigzags, some polka dots. Basically, I just tried to follow the picture that I'm going to show you in a little bit and recreate the design. And it was that simple. I continued this on all 3, making each one look a little different from each other. And that was it. It took me no time at all. To finish these off, once I had all my designs drawn on, I took some of this nautical rope from the Dollar Tree. I cut off a little piece of it, and I'm going to hot glue the ends together. And then just to kind of make it look a little cleaner at the end, I am going to wrap some twine around the bottom part of the nautical rope where I glued it. So I'm just going to take a smaller piece of twine and I'm just going to wrap and wrap and wrap it all around. That all I need to do is hot glue it to the top of my pots, which are now going to be bells. Now I did apply a generous amount of hot glue to glue down the rope, and it seemed to really help. So you just want to kind of press it on there until the glue sets up, and that was it. These little bells were so simple to make, and like I said earlier, you can pick up 3 of the already red bells from the Dollar Tree and you can totally cut out one of the steps to this DIY. So all you would have to do is use your paint marker to draw on the designs and then add the nautical rope for the hanger. And it's that simple. Look how these came out. All right, here's the Pottery Barn version. Of course, a little bigger, $79 for all 3. And here are mine. What do you think? This next dupe is from Kirklands, and I'm going to start off with 2 of these little tinsel trees from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to take off all of the little accessories like the snowflakes and the little gems, and then I'm going to start unraveling the tinsel off of each one. Real quick, I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to my YouTube channel. If you're new, thank you so much for choosing to stop by today. I truly hope that you enjoy what you see, and hey, stick around with me for a while by clicking that subscribe button. If you're returning, you already know I love you, I appreciate you, and I want to thank you for coming on back. Please continue to comment, please continue to like my videos. I truly appreciate all of your support to help my channel grow. So after I had all my tinsel off, I took my wire cutters and I'm going to go through and I'm just simply going to cut off all of those little knobs on the ends of the trees. And I am going to do this for both of my trees. They were really easy to cut off, so I just went ahead and clipped off each one. After all my little knobs were cut off, I'm taking a sanding block and I'm going to sand both of my trees down. I'm doing this because I am planning on painting them, and if I sand it down first, the paint will adhere better to the plastic tree. So I'm just going to sand it down really well. Then I'm going to take my nutmeg brown paint, but you can take whatever brown paint you have, and I'm going to paint each one of these trees, the front and the back. And I got inside each of those little squares too. Now, of course, the easier option is to spray paint these, but it's been 30-40 degrees here in Ohio, so that was not happening. So I just took the time and I just painted each one. After my trees were painted, I put them together so that they looked 3D. And then I'm going to start hot gluing these in little random areas where they touch. So the bottom, the top, and some on the sides. Now you're going to see in a little bit that I do end up just cutting off the trunk of the tree, but for now I am going to keep it on. Then to help my two trees stay together, I'm actually going to take a smaller piece of twine and I'm going to tie the two together using that, just in some random spots until I feel like they are secure enough together. This dupe is also super simple as well. Then after I felt that my trees were connected securely, I'm going to start at the top and I'm just going to wrap and wrap and wrap this tree in some twine. So I did tie it up top and then I'm just going to secure it with some hot glue and start wrapping it. Now there's two different ways you can do this. So in the Kirklands piece, they wrapped it so you could still see the wire underneath. I had intended to do that, but because you could still see some of that original green of the tree, I just didn't think it looked right. So I opted just to wrap it fully, but you can do whatever you like and whatever look that you are going for. So as I'm wrapping, I am going in different directions. So the twine is kind of crisscrossing each other and I'm just moving it. It's not one straight up and down, but I wanted it to look really rustic. So once I got to the bottom, I went ahead and cut it off, and then I just tied the twine to itself. Now, some of my pieces kind of got loose a little bit, so I'm just gonna tack them down with some hot glue. And then here is where I'm going to finish it off in the back. So I just cut it off, and then like I said, I'm just going to tie it to a string that's already wrapped around. Okay, next, this is where I decided that I was going to cut off the trunk of my tree. So just by using my wire cutters, I went ahead and took that off. Now you do want to make sure that it's very smooth on the bottom, or else of course your tree will not stand. So I made sure to cut as close to the bottom as I could. Next, I took this pick that I actually got for $2 at Dollar General, and I picked it up because I absolutely loved how this looked. It's frosted, you have the garland, and then you have the little berries, but basically, I'm just going to wrap this around the front of the tree. Now, I opted not to wrap it around the back of the tree because I just didn't want to waste all those little pieces, because I would like to use this pick for something else too. So you're going to see how I kind of zigzag it on the front. So I just used a generous amount of hot glue to secure each end of these little picks that I'm picking off of the big branch. Now you do have to hold each end of these little pieces until they are glued down, until they are secure. And then you can see how I'm wrapping it around one side and then wrapping it around the front and then zigzagging it down. Now at the very top, you're going to see that I actually kind of angle it, take it off and angle it better so it goes across the top more, and that really makes it look a lot better. I know it looks kind of weird right now, but at first I wasn't really sure how I wanted to do this. And then that's when I decided I didn't really want to waste all those branches to the back of the tree, because I could easily display this so the back of the tree is not shown. So I just didn't want to waste all those really pretty little picks. But I thought for $2, this Dollar General pick was gorgeous. You're actually going to see me use quite a few items from Dollar General in this video. And don't dismiss Dollar General. They have a ton of great holiday decor and craft items that you can use as well. So here's where I'm going through, and I'm going to fix the top of the branch. And then I'm going to take this gold glitter star and hot glue that to the top of my tree. Next, I decided that I did want to add some branches to the bottom to kind of complete my little zigzag pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and add a few more. So as you're going to see in this video, I am a very rustic decor person all year round. So that includes Christmas. What is your style like? Do you like the glam? Do you like the winter wonderland? Do you like the blues and silvers? I want to know. I've been getting a ton of feedback on what your style is like. So comment below and tell me what your taste is for the holiday season. All right, next I kind of felt like it needed a little bit more. So I took this pitberry garland and I'm just simply going to wrap it all the way around my tree, starting from the top and going all the way to the bottom. And I thought that this added the perfect amount of detail. And that was it. That completed this tree. As you can see, it was super easy. It cost me maybe $4 to make. And I was even thinking about going back and adding some fairy lights around it so it would light up too. I think that would be so pretty. Now, here's the tree from Kirkland's, $34.99. Now, as you can see, they didn't wrap it so much that you could still see the wires underneath. I went a little fuller, but you tell me, what do you think? Before our next dupe, I want to take a brief moment and tell you about my Open Challenge series that I will be starting on January 12th, and it will continue the second Wednesday of every month. It is an open challenge called Let's Dupe It. If you love to create dupes from your favorite stores, Pinterest, Etsy shops, or even other YouTube crafters, please feel free to join my open challenge. This will be so much fun, and sometimes I even add a theme. Just like for January, the theme is Valentine's Day or love themed DIYs. If you're interested, please shoot me a message over on my Instagram and I will add you to our group. All right, let's continue with these dupes. Our next DIY is coming straight from Pottery Barn. However, this is going to be more of an inspired DIY because it's not going to look exactly like the Pottery Barn piece. Now, this is a pizza pan. I had painted it white for a different DIY, so now I'm just kind of using my steel paint from Waverly, and I'm giving it a coat of that to paint it back to its regular color of a pizza pan. So after that dries, I'm going to take a variety of different colors to go ahead and galvanize this, or give it the faux galvanized look. So I am going to use my elephant gray chalk paint, and you can see that I cut off a little piece of a kitchen sponge, and I'm dabbing it in the chalk paint and then kind of dabbing it off a little bit on my paper. Then I'm going to go through and I'm just going to dab, dab, dab all over my pizza pan. After I have that first layer of the gray chalk paint, I'm going to go ahead and move to black. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to dab it in my black, then I'm going to dab it off a little bit, and then dab it all over the pizza pan. Next, I'm going to go in with some white chalk paint and do the same thing. At this point, I'm kind of going back and forth now and mixing all three colors. That way, it really gives it that textured look. Then I'm going to go back over this with that original color, the steel chalk paint. That's the color that I actually painted the entire pan in the first place, just to kind of basically dull down all the colors and to bring it all together. Then I'm going to dab on some of my metallic acrylic paint from Walmart, and that's going to help give it that shiny look. I love faux galvanizing things. I think it is so much fun to do, but I also think that the look is so neat. So here's that metallic paint, and I'm just kind of putting it in random spots. That way it creates that shiny look. Okay, now I'm going to add some rust. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take my antique Waverly wax and I'm going to dab that all the way around my pizza pan. I'm also going to dab it in some random spots in the middle of my pizza pan as well. After all my paint was dry, I took this baking sheet that I got from the Dollar Tree and I'm just simply going to cut out the middle section. Then I'm going to take my scraper tool and I'm actually going to kind of scrape all of the little bumps out. So as you can see, I'm just firmly pressing on the baking sheet and pressing out all of those little bumps. Next, I'm going to take this sign that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm simply just going to use this as a template, and I'm going to trace just the top part of that bulb. Then, of course, after I have it traced out, I'm going to go through and I'm going to cut it out. Now I need to make a little hole like in the hanger part. So what I'm going to do is just put it on my cutting mat and use this little knife and simply just cut out a little hole. Then I did go ahead and take my scissors and just cut it out. Next, I'm going to do the exact same method I did with the pizza pan. I'm going to paint this with the steel paint and then use all of those colors to give this the faux galvanized look as well. This is your friendly reminder that if you're loving what you see so far, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Not only does it really help my channel to grow, but it tells YouTube that you love what you see and you want to see more. So please smash that like button. All right, after my little topper was dry, I'm going to use some hot glue and hot glue it to the top of my pizza pan. Okay, so here's where the look of this DIY kind of changes a little bit. So when I saw this decal sheet at Walmart, I knew I wanted to use that little Believe in the Magic of Christmas decal. Then I found the cutest little Santa with these vintage little reindeer, and I've been obsessed with these little vintage reindeer this season, so I wanted to use those as well. So I'm just taking off some random decals. Now these were on two different decals. The Believe in the Magic of Christmas was on one, and then the reindeer, the trees, and then all the snowflakes that I'm about to put on were on a different one. So the Pottery Barn version, you're going to see it looks very different, but the concept is the same. So basically I'm just going through and I'm just laying out how I want all my decals to look. And then once I have it figured out, I'm going to take my Mod Podge and I'm going to put on a nice thick layer and I'm going to Mod Podge all of my decals down on my pizza pan. Now, I am making sure to get Mod Podge underneath all the edges of my decals. That way they are nice and glued on. Then I'm basically going to pour some Mod Podge over my entire pizza pan, and I'm going to seal all of my decals down. So this DIY was super easy to make as well, and like I said, they're not going to look the exact same, but the concept is still the same. And this shows you that you can take an idea and you can completely change it to fit your style. I really love anything that says believe in the magic or anything that has to do with Christmas, so that's the decal I wanted to go with. So as you can see, I used my brayer tool to go ahead and push all these decals down as well. And then after my Mod Podge dried, this DIY is complete. So here is the one from Pottery Barn, $49.50. I created somewhat of the same look, same concept, but you tell me, what do you think? The next DIY comes from Kirklands, and I'm going to start off with this little sign that I got from the Dollar Tree. Now, I really want the frame of this, but I don't need the family, so I'm just using my knife to go ahead and cut out the word from the middle of my sign. So once I had my word cut out, I'm going to take my sanding block and I'm going to sand down the inside edges to make it nice and smooth. And then I realized that that frame actually popped off. So I'm going to pop it off and sand it down even more. If you hear some weird noises in the background, that is my 5-pound Maltese in the back who is sleeping and he's snoring. So sorry about that. So I am taking my knife and just kind of smoothing it out a little bit more. Next, I'm going to take this pack of scrapbook paper that I got from Hobby Lobby. It was originally $21.99, but of course I got it 50% off. But I just loved all of the rustic pieces of paper in this. So I chose this rustic red and kind of tan polka dot one. And I'm going to trace my box onto this piece of paper, and then of course I'm going to cut it out. Now again, this is going to be another dupe where it's the same exact concept, but I'm using the colors and the style that fits my home. So now I'm going to use my paper cutter to go ahead and cut it down. And then I knew it wasn't going to fit exactly, so I'm going to stick it in the middle of this frame, and I'm just going to use my fingernail to kind of add creases of where I need to make some other cuts to make it fit. Of course, in the end, it did not fit perfectly. It was a little crooked, but hey, it's rustic and it's a DIY, so it is what it is. Now, the back of this frame does actually come off. It is just stapled in. I was just kind of being lazy here though, and I didn't really feel like taking all the staples out and trying to do that, so I just went this route. Looking back on it, I should have just taken the back out so that way I could get a perfect fit, but now I know. So once I had it cut down how I needed, I used my Mod Podge again, and I'm just going to Mod Podge my piece of paper down into my frame. I'm going to make sure that the corners and the edges are all glued down as well. So for this dupe, I'm going to be using this pack of little wood pieces that I got from Hobby Lobby. And it comes with a pack of 5. And I'm going to lay them out in my box to make sure that they're the right size. But first, I'm going to go ahead and hot glue that frame on so it will give me the right visual. So I'm just going to use my hot glue to glue that back on. And then I did realize that those little wood pieces were just a little too big. So what I'm going to end up doing is actually cutting them in half using my miter shears. Now, I only need 5 pieces for this DIY, so I'm only going to need to cut 3 of my rectangles down. Now, they did cut down wonky because my blade is broken and it's not straight across. So after I had all my pieces cut down, I'm going to take this stencil that I got from the Dollar Tree, and rather than using paint to stencil these on, I'm just going to trace out each letter and then use my paint pen just to color them in. Because they're so tiny, I just thought that this was the best way to go, so that way there's no bleeding, because there's really no way to fix that if there were, because it's natural wood. So it's not like if it were white, I could just paint over it. I just felt more comfortable tracing and coloring it in. Then to give it that rustic look, I'm going to go ahead and use my sanding block to sand over it, but spoiler alert, it didn't really work, and I'm not exactly sure why. So what I did was took one of my little chippy or chunky brushes, dipped it in some white Waverly chalk paint, and just dabbed it over each of my letters to give it that rustic look. Next, I'm going to take some small white beads, and they were already painted white. I got them on a garland, so I'm just going to use the ones I have, and I'm going to put a bead in between each of my letters and one on each end. Now, you do want to make sure the first R in the word is in the center, because that is the center of the word. That's the middle of the word. So right now, before I glue anything down, I'm just going through and lining it all up, making sure it's all even. And you can see that I'm positioning it to the top of my frame. And then I'm going to kind of have it angled so it makes kind of a rounded shape. So once I had them looking how I liked, I went through and I hot glued all of my letters first. And, well, that was the plan, but then the beads kept moving, so I thought, okay, I better start hot gluing these beads down. Now, for some reason, I did not hot glue these touching each other, and I don't know why they were supposed to be touching, so I am going to go back and fix that. So what I would suggest is just go ahead and hot glue your letter bead, letter bead, letter bead. I don't know why I didn't do that. But do as I say and not as I do. So you could use Scrabble letters for this if you had a smaller frame, but the regular size of a Scrabble letter was too small for this frame. So I didn't want to use it because the positioning would be all weird and it would look weird. And this frame was more similar. Is that right? Is that grammatically correct? More similar? It looked most like the one from Kirklands. So that's why I opted to do this route and just cutting my own pieces down. So as you can see, I'm using my hair dryer to reheat the little pieces, and I'm showing you this because, you know, everyone makes mistakes, so I'm showing you how you can easily fix them because, hey, it's just crafting. Everything's fixable. All right, and then the final step is just to add the word Christmas. Now, I used my Cricut to cut this out. To cut out this decal, you can use sticker letters. You can use rub-on transfers. You can use just a variety of different ways to get this word on. Now, I didn't use my transfer paper for this because each letter was like not connected, so I wanted to apply it myself. But then once it was applied, it is done. So here is the Kirklands piece. $29.99. Like I said, I changed up the colors to match my color scheme a little bit, and I love how it came out. What do you think? For the last dupe, I'm going to use this $3 nativity set that I got from Dollar General. Now, this one was my favorite one to do. This one was so much fun. So basically, I'm taking out all of my pieces, and then I'm going to take that steel chalk paint from Waverly, and I'm going to paint all of the little figures. Now, when I pulled these out, they were a little rough around the edges, so I am taking my nail file and I'm just sanding them down a bit, so that way it makes it nice and smooth. So the only pieces that I'm going to be painting with that steel color are Mary, Joseph, the sheep, the camel, and the 3 wise men, and I think that there is a shepherd boy there. So just basically the little figures, but I'm going to leave the little stable natural. Now, as you can see, I kind of had to make a line at the bottom where I'm going to separate the figures from the stable. But the first step was just to paint each one of these with that steel chalk paint from Waverly. So once those were all painted, I'm going to do the same technique I did to the pizza pan, and we're going to faux galvanize these. However, it's not going to be as dark, so I'm only going to use the white and the metallic gray. So I'm going to go through and I'm just going to dab, dab, dab that white all over it, each one of those little gray pieces, and then I'm going to go over it again with that steel paint to kind of mute down and kind of bring it all together. Okay, so now I'm going to go through and I'm going to add that metallic paint to give it that little shiny look. You're going to see that I do add more because I kind of wanted it to look a little bit more shiny. But for now, this will work. Now, I'm not doing the edges of this because I thought that the natural wood around the edges looked really cool. Alright, so I put all my pieces aside, and now I'm going to take these jumbo craft sticks from Walmart, and I'm basically going to figure out how many I need to cover the back of this little stable or nativity scene. So I did end up using 5, so I'm laying them out, and then I'm going to trace on the outside of my nativity scene. Now I'm only going to line up the top to the bottom, so you can see that there's little shapes, cutouts at the top. I'm going to make sure that it starts at the bottom of that and goes down, and then I'm just going to use my scissors and cut where I made my marks. This wood is so soft that it was easy for me just to use regular scissors, but I do have a pair of scissors that I use just for cutting wood. For some reason, my miter shears will not work on these dowels. I don't know why. Or, I'm sorry, not the dowels, the craft sticks. They do work on dowels, but we're not using any right now. But they just won't work on these craft sticks, but these scissors were good enough. So now I have them all cut down, so now I'm lining them back up just to make sure that the positioning and sizing is correct. And it is. So now it's time to paint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to faux stain 2 of them. And it doesn't matter the order you do this in. This is just what I did. So I'm going to faux stain the top one. And I'm going to do this by dipping my baby wipe in my Waverly Antique Wax and rubbing it across. And then I'm laying them back out again to see which other one I want to faux stain. So I'm going to do the 4th one down. And again, I'm just going to use my baby wipe and Waverly Antique Wax. Then I'm going to paint 2 of them with ivory chalk paint from Waverly. And then I'm going to paint the last one with my elephant chalk paint from Waverly. Once these were dry, I'm going to make them look distressed. So for the ivory ones, I'm going to dip my little chunky brush in my Waverly Antique Wax, and I'm going to dry brush over those ones. And then for the stained ones and the elephant gray, I'm going to use my white chalk paint to distress those ones. Then I'm going to go through and I'm going to sand each one of these. Now, they kind of took a lot of the distressing, like, see, they took a lot of the paint off, the distressing paint off. So I am going to go back and I'm going to distress or dry brush over each one of these one more time. And basically, I'm just dry brushing and sanding until I get the look that I'm going for. Once these were all complete, I'm going to line them back up and then turn them upside down. And then I'm just going to use the little scrap pieces of wood that I had cut off of these sticks. And I'm going to use those to hot glue the sticks all together on the back. Now, I did not intend for there to be gaps in between these craft sticks. I just think I didn't realize that there was at the time. But it's totally up to you if you want to put a gap in between the sticks or put them right next to each other. Then I flipped my piece back over, and now I'm going to hot glue the nativity piece on top of what I just created. Now, there was a little overhang on the top and the sides and the bottom, so I am just going to take my regular scissors and I'm going to cut that off. Now, actually, in the Pottery Barn piece, you can actually see the overhang, but I didn't like that, so on mine, I chose to cut it off. And then I did sand it down so it was nice and smooth. Then I'm going to take another one of these gold stars and I'm going to paint it with that steel chalk paint. Then again, I'm just going to dab it with some white paint to give it that faux galvanized look. Then I'm going to take that star and I'm going to hot glue it in the middle of that other star that's already there. Then, now I just cut the bottom of that, so that's why I was sanding it. But now it's time to put this together. So that base actually came with the set. So I'm going to hot glue the nativity to the back of the base. And I am hot gluing it in that slot, except for it doesn't fit now because I added another layer of wood. So I'm just doing my best to hot glue it so it stays up. And it did. It went pretty good. And now I'm just kind of laying out all my pieces and figuring out where I want them to go. So I put the 3 wise men on the right side, and you're going to see that I do it in different levels, different sections, so it looks all 3D. Then once I figure out where I want to hot glue them, I'm just going to use my hot glue and hot glue each of them down. And then here is where I decided to go ahead and add even more metallic silver paint. I just really wanted these to be really shiny and to pop off the background. but after that second layer, or third layer actually, of metallic paint was on, this DIY was complete, and like I said, I absolutely loved how this came out. This could also be another one where you can stick some lights in and make it light up. So here is the Pottery Barn version, $69. It doesn't look exactly the same, but hey, I thought I got it pretty darn close. What do you think? I really loved how fun and rustic each one of these DIYs and dupes came out today, but even more so, I loved how simple they all were. And hey, the savings on each one of these pieces are undeniable. I made each one of these dupes for, I would say, about $5 or less, which is a fraction of the cost of the original piece. Now, I definitely think that my two favorite pieces are this Merry Christmas sign right here and the nativity. I definitely think I'm going to go back and add some fairy lights to that tree and the nativity to make them light up, because as you know, I love things that light up. You're going to have to let me know down in the comments which one was your absolute favorite. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. If you haven't done so already, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, hit that like button, and hey, share this video with your friends if they are loving on some dupes too. Please don't forget that I have a huge announcement coming up and lots of exciting things, and I know you're not going to want to miss it. Well, until I see you again, I'll craft with you soon. Bye!